we got something rather funny here, but it's also quite telling about the previous Labour leadership and the current one that we have in there now, namely Sir Keir Starmer, the arch-Remainer who pushed the Labour Party towards a Remain and second referendum agenda that helped them lose the last election. Now, you might be saying, well, Jeremy Corbyn was the leader of the Labour Party at the last election, and yes, you would be right. Apparently, he was the leader. But if his friend is correct, in this article by The Express here, it would seem he wasn't really the leader of shit, as he essentially went with whatever was popular among those who supported him, so they didn't up and leave him, and John McDonnell couldn't plot to remove him, which is apparently why he called the general election and allowed Joe Swinson to be blamed for it. Now, as I said, this all comes from Jeremy Corbyn's friend, so some of it could be complete fabrication, but in my opinion, some of it certainly makes a lot of sense. But the Express article headlines, Corbyn Insider reveals why ex-Labour leader couldn't support Brexit. Jeremy Corbyn has never changed his mind on Europe, but could not come out in support of Brexit because of a particular reason, an academic who used to be close to him has claimed in an interview with express.co.uk. For the majority of his political life, former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has been less than enthusiastic about the EU, as is well documented and was pointed out by Boris Johnson last year, when he said the great Eurosceptic who now wants to remain in the EU, mocking him at the dispatch box for the wishy-washy Brexit position that we're going to take a look at in this article, and we all remember for its completely ridiculous nature that made absolutely no sense and helped secure their utter humiliation in December last year. In 2015, he told Reuters that he had voted against Britain's membership of the European Economic Community, the precursor to the EU, when Labour Prime Minister Harold Wilson put the question to a public ballot in 1975. His scepticism continued as a backbench MP as well, as did his links with various organisations who do not like this country. In 1996, he rallied against a European bureaucracy totally unaccountable to anyone, lamenting that powers have gone from national parliaments, which he was trying to give back to the EU last year after the people of this country voted to take them back. And if the rest of this article is anything to be believed, then it shows he is not a leader, and instead a backbench MP who is just a follower. Ahead of Ireland's 2009 referendum on the Lisbon Treaty, Mr Corbyn said, on the EU's ties with NATO, we are creating for ourselves one massive great Frankenstein that will damage all of us in the long run, which it has already done multiple times. Despite all of this, he campaigned for Remain during the 2016 Brexit referendum, and under his leadership, the Labour Party shifted towards a more pro-EU position at the 2019 general election, as we all know. The only ones who went more pro-Remain was the Liberal Democrats, and look what happened to them. According to economics teacher David Palmer, who was involved in far-left politics and worked with Mr Corbyn in the 80s and early 90s, there is a reason why the left-winger could not come out in support of Brexit. Mr Palmer, who was a member of IMG, Socialist Action, and used to be very active in the Labour briefing, told express.co.uk, if Jeremy had campaigned for Brexit, the Labour Party would have broken up. The people that stayed with him, like Starmer and co, would have probably left in large numbers. Politicians nowadays are cowards. All they care about is career. If Corbyn backed the Brexit campaign, it might have been the end of the party. It was to keep the coalition together that he took that incoherent position. That's why the discussion of it at the time was so dull and boring. So, as I said, if that is to be believed, which is certainly possible, Jeremy Corbyn, the magic grandpa, never really controlled or led the Labour Party. Instead, he was controlled by those around him in order to keep them in favour, because he knew without them and the momentum base, he would be quickly removed from the Labour Party due to the fact that he is an unelectable shitweasel. And we all know that Starmer is the arch-Remainer and the architect of Labour's Brexit position last year. So it is certainly possible that Starmer and co leaving would have been very dangerous to Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, as we will hear in a moment, due to the plots against him. which does not surprise me in the slightest, considering he is an incompetent loser. In another interview with Express.co.uk, former Labour Foreign Secretary and SDP co-leader Lord David Owen echoed Mr Palmer's claims. Analysing Labour's poor performance at the polls, the former Foreign Secretary and SDP co-founder said Corbyn is totally against nuclear deterrence, but was ready to accept that the party voted for Trident, so he gave them Trident both in 2017 and 2019. Also, he himself is totally opposed to the common market. He wanted out. Why did he change his mind? It is very interesting. The Brexiteer continued. They blame Jo Swinson, the woman who was leading the Liberal Democrats, for the fact that we had an election. Not a bit of it. The person who is responsible for this was Corbyn, and he is proud of it. The former Labour leader reportedly told The Guardian before the election that he went to the shadow cabinet without consulting anyone, not even Mr McDonnell, and set the conditions for a national vote. Because, as we all know, and I've said many times, the Labour Party is full of a bunch of vipers ready to eat each other at a moment's notice. As it says here, Lord Owen added he called a general election because he saw McDonnell in the wings waiting to get rid of him, which is something I actually covered at the time if you remember back to last year when there was a reported plot against Jeremy Corbyn led by John McDonnell. And if memory serves, that was literally a couple of days before the election was called. He was about to ditch his friend Corbyn in order to hold on to that strange coalition, Tory and DUP, until the summer of this year. Yes, John McDonnell, Keir Starmer and the shitweasels like them wanted to keep the status quo that we had last year, which was obviously the Ramona Parliament from 2017 to 2019 that sold out this country multiple times and tried to stop Brexit entirely with the Ben Bill and multiple others. You remember, helped by the snivelling shitweasel that is John Burkuck, whose wife gets ploughed balls deep by his cousin, you might remember. The plan for Starmer, McDonnell and the rest of these lefty lunatics was to keep the status quo going, keep us in the EU and get a 2-year Brexit extension over the line, likely with a Ramona bill put through Parliament if we still had the status quo from last year. Corbyn shut it down. He voted for it because he didn't want to be pushed out of the leadership or forced to swallow a pro-EU lie. That meant that you had a second referendum and he was not in favour of one. And you know, to me, a lot of that possibly rings true. Corbyn doesn't really seem like the leader type to me. He seems like the one who follows the fashion, you know, goes with whatever the popular crowd around him says is what they should do. Magic Grandpa is never an alpha, he is more like a beta. But the fact that current leader Sir Keir Starmer is one of those who would have left him if Corbyn didn't do what he said, shows to me that Sir Keir Starmer may even be more unelectable than the Corbynated chicken himself, which I think you would agree is no mean feat, and polling would suggest that is true, even given the Tories' piss-poor performance on a variety of subjects over the last couple of months. Starmer is still not really gaining ground on Boris in the opinion polls. Now obviously, opinion polls don't really mean shit. There's only one opinion poll that matters, and that is an election. But on the face of it, it certainly doesn't look good. Now before I go, I've started doing live streams and uploading gaming content on my second channel. If you would like to come and join me for a live stream to chat in real time, have an interest in gaming related content on YouTube, or just want to follow me over there because you are a legend, the link will be down in the video description below and as a pinned comment. I hope to see you all there. Now as always, before I go, I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.